Wow, we have a very packed room here today. Thank you all so much for showing up and for joining. I apologize for the delay. The president and I were watching the press conference about the search for Savannah Guthrie's mother, which is just a heartbreaking situation. The president, as you all know, spoke directly with Savannah yesterday and told her that the federal government is here to help. Any requests that are made by state and local officials in the search of Miss Guthrie will absolutely be accommodated. I spoke with the FBI directly about that today as well. And our hearts and our prayers are with Savannah and her entire family as they search for her dear mother. I also have a quick scheduling announcement for all of you. Tonight at 7 p.m. during prime time, President Trump, Dr. Oz, and National Design Studio Director Joe Gebbia will officially unveil Trump RX, a state-of-the-art website for American consumers to purchase low-cost prescription drugs. This historic announcement will save millions of Americans their hard-earned money, so make sure to tune in tonight, and we will see all of you in the news media there. President Trump promised to restore law and order to the United States of America, and newly released data proves he is delivering overwhelmingly on this promise. A study from the Council on Criminal Justice shows that the murder rate across America's largest cities plummeted in 2025 to its lowest level since at least 1900. Again, let me repeat, to put this in perspective, this marks the largest single-year drop in murders in recorded history. This dramatic decline is what happens when a president secures the border, fully mobilizes federal law enforcement to arrest violent criminals, and aggressively deports the worst of the worst illegal aliens from our country. The numbers don't lie. Under President Trump in 2025, the FBI increased violent crime arrests by 100% compared to the prior year. The FBI also conducted more than 67,000 arrests from Inauguration Day 2025 to January 20th, 2026, which is 197% more arrests than the same period previously. The FBI also disrupted 1,800 gangs and criminal enterprises, a 210% increase from the year prior. The FBI has arrested 1,700 child predators and more than 300 human traffickers across the country. Since President Trump took office, 6 of the FBI's top 10 most wanted fugitives have been captured. Right here in our nation's capital, where you all live, so you know it well, whether you choose to report it or not, the president's efforts to make D.C. safe and beautiful have worked. As of last week, D.C. homicides were down 62%, motor vehicle theft down 53%, and 2025 had the fewest violent gun crimes of any year of available data in our nation's capital. For more proof that these tough-on-crime efforts are working, look at the president's Make Memphis Safe Again campaign. As of last week, there have been nearly 5,600 arrests made, and aggravated assaults are down 53%. Sexual assaults are down 53%, and robberies are down 70%. Again, that's just in the city of Memphis. 5,600 arrests have taken place because of this president and his Homeland Security Task Force that has surged into Memphis at the request of both the governor and the mayor in that city. A Democrat mayor, I will add. These are the results that can happen when Democrats and Republicans, when the federal government and state and local officials work together. And that's what President Trump wants to see to improve public safety across our country. When you have a leader like President Trump who empowers good cops to be cops and to arrest bad criminals, American communities will become safer. Many of the media outlets in this room have expressed shock and confusion at these remarkable statistics. The New York Times declared that, quote, "No one knows for sure what's behind the staggering drop in the murder rate. The reason is very clear. It is President Trump's leadership and his unwavering commitment to law and order. The drop in crime is more proof that all that is required to improve public safety on our streets is a leader with the will to do what is necessary to protect law-abiding American citizens. The terror and chaos that was unleashed under Democrat rule is a choice. It's a choice to put violent criminals ahead of innocent Americans, a choice to force us all to live in fear because of soft-on-crime liberal politicians, prosecutors, and judges who lack the basic willingness to do their jobs and put dangerous people behind bars. On November 5th, 2024, the American people made a resounding choice that they've had enough of that, and that's precisely why they re-elected President Trump. So even as Democrats and the liberal media are engaged in hysteria about this administration arresting and deporting violent, criminal, illegal aliens, the undeniable truth is that deporting these individuals is one of the primary reasons why America's streets are safer today than they were 1 year ago when President Trump assumed office. Former President Biden and the Democrats left our borders wide open, and President Trump and the brave men and women of ICE are removing these dangerous criminals. So here are just a few recent examples. Number one, a Venezuelan national and active Tren de Aragua gang member with a rap sheet including homicide, assault, child cruelty, domestic violence, and property damage. This is an individual I can assure you not a single one of you in this room would want in your neighborhood, whether you admit it or not. He entered the U.S. in 2022, and he was released into our country by the Biden administration. He is no longer here, thanks to President Trump. An El Salvadorian national and known MS-13 associate, previously convicted of homicide, conspiracy to commit homicide, and kidnapping, arrested for arson, battery, armed carjacking, and assault. He entered illegally in 2016, was released by the Obama administration, and ICE just arrested him on January 8th, 2026. This example shows you how many criminal illegal aliens have been roaming American streets freely because of a lack of attention to this matter from the previous administration, and President Trump is cleaning up their mess. A Cuban national and blood gangs member convicted of multiple homicides and robbery. ICE arrested him on October 27th and removed him on January 6th, 2026. Arresting and deporting these types of illegal criminals is precisely what the American people voted for. And despite desperate recent attempts by Democrats and those in the media to undermine the president's deportation agenda, these efforts are failing. Brand new Harvard-Harris polling shows overwhelming support for President Trump's efforts to protect law-abiding citizens from criminal illegal aliens. Nearly 8 in 10 Americans say criminal illegal aliens should be deported. A solid majority also support deporting all illegal aliens, regardless of additional crimes. And more than 2 in 3 Americans back the Trump administration's common sense requirement that state and local officials cooperate with federal authorities and work to hand over criminal illegal aliens in local jails for swift deportation. Finally, to prevent another invasion of millions of illegal aliens from happening again, President Trump and Secretary Noem delivered the most secure border in American history. 0 illegal aliens were released into our homeland over the past 9 months. This is a truly remarkable achievement. Again, 0 illegal aliens released into the country in 9 months. This is staggering, and it deserves more attention from all of you. Overall, Customs and Border Protection recorded the lowest total encounters in agency history. Daily encounters have fallen by 95%, averaging just 250 apprehensions at the southern border a day. This is compared to over 5,100 daily apprehensions during the Biden years. It's a night and day difference because we finally have a president who enforces the law and lets our law enforcement do their noble jobs of protecting our homeland. When President Trump campaigned on making America safe again, this is exactly what he meant, and the numbers and the results speak for themselves. With that, I will open it up to questions today. We're going to start with Daniel Baldwin from One America News, who is here religiously covering the White House beat every day. So it's good to see you in a chair instead of standing up today. Daniel, thanks for being here, and why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Karoline. It's an honor and a privilege to represent One America News in the new media seat. First question on that DHS funding bill. Funding runs out in the better part of 8 days or so. Democrats, at least verbally, are very dug in. What does the White House believe their end goal is when it comes to this funding fight, when it comes to immigration policy at large? What is their end goal when they're dug in a position like this at this point in time?
Well, the president has 2 end goals. One is to obviously keep the government funded and open, and that includes the Department of Homeland Security, which does not just touch upon ICE and Border Patrol, but also FEMA, the United States Coast Guard, the United States Secret Service. These are brave public servants who work to protect our homeland. The president wants these individuals to get paid. Secondly, when it comes to any discussions about immigration policy, the president is never going to waver in his commitment to allow immigration enforcement efforts in this country and to support ICE and Border Patrol and the deportation of illegal alien criminals. I know Senator Schumer and Leader Jeffries sent over a very long list of demands, some of which the administration is willing to discuss. Others don't seem like they are grounded in any common sense, and they are non-starters for this administration, but we're not going to negotiate policy from the podium. I'm going to allow the president to do that, and any final decisions that are made will be made ultimately by him. But rest assured, he is never going to allow law enforcement in the jobs that they do, the important jobs that they do, to be undermined.
And secondly, Karoline, the Department of Homeland Security put out a tweet a better part of an hour ago alleging that an illegal alien was involved in a major car wreck in Indiana, killing 4 people, and they allege that the suspect in question came in under the CBP-1 app under the Biden administration and received a commercial driver's license from the state of Pennsylvania. What is the White House's reaction to a situation like this? And what is the White House doing to crack down on cases like this where illegal aliens are obtaining commercial driver's licenses?
Yes, this is another abhorrent example of the border crisis over the past 4 years, and it again exemplifies why the administration must continue and will always continue to fully back and support ICE and Border Patrol and law enforcement in their removal of illegal alien criminals from our country. For those who don't know, and all of you should report on it, 4 Americans were tragically killed and lost their lives this week yet again from an illegal alien, an individual who was paroled into the country by the Biden administration using the CBP-1 app, which they created like it was a magic pass for Disneyland. That's not how immigration in this country should work. And this illegal alien from Kyrgyzstan was traveling on an Indiana highway, and he failed to brake for a slowed semi-truck in front of him. He swerved into the lane and he crashed into a van carrying 15 passengers, and 4 people were killed in that crash. This is another tragedy that could have been prevented if not for the wide open borders from the previous administration. That's why we now have a secure border. That's why this administration will continue to deport illegal aliens from our country. Thank you for being here. Garrett.
John, thank you for your comments and your prayers for the Guthrie family. I have 2 questions related to the president's interview with NBC yesterday.
Sure.
At one point in the interview, the president said that he believes states are accumulating the votes for who wins the election. He says if they, meaning the states, can't do it honestly and can't be done properly and timely, then something else has to happen. What did he mean by that? Is he suggesting that the federal government count votes in elections?
What the president is suggesting, and I just spoke to him about this, is that Republicans and Democrats in Congress should pass the Save America Act. This piece of legislation is going to ensure that states are abiding by federal election law by removing non-citizens from their voter rolls. In addition, the Save America Act will require voter ID to vote, and it will require proof of citizenship to register to vote. These are very common sense policies and proposals that 89% of our country agree with. So that's what the president is talking about. Again, I just spoke with him about this, and he's calling on both Republicans and Democrats to send the Save America Act, to pass it into law and to send it to his desk as quickly as possible.
To be clear, the SAVE Act doesn't say anything about who counts votes, which has always been a state, a local, a county function. Why does he keep talking about somebody else, presumably the federal government, counting votes?
Because the SAVE Act directs states to remove non-citizens from their voter rolls. And we know in states across the country, the president is right to point this out. In states like California or in places like New York City, non-citizens are allowed to vote in state and local elections. And the federal government should absolutely do away with that. I don't think a single person in this room, if you really are being honest with yourselves, should agree that non-citizens should vote in American elections, no matter where that election is up and down the ticket. And so this is a piece of federal legislation that will help states ensure the integrity and the sanctity of their elections, and that's what the president wants. Peter.
Thanks, Caroline. President Trump posted about Nancy Guthrie that he is directing all federal law enforcement to be at the families and local law enforcement's complete disposal immediately. What should we expect to see from the federal government in coming days in the search to find Nancy Guthrie?
It's a very good question, Peter, and it's why I was on the phone with the FBI earlier this morning to ask that. And what they told me is that the FBI, again, is at the disposal of the state and local government. Whatever personnel or assets or resources that the state and local authorities and police need will be granted to them at the direction of the president, the FBI director, and the attorney general.
A different law enforcement issue. The FBI just found 1,000 samples inside an illegal biolab in Las Vegas. It is linked to a different biolab that was previously raided. There are ties to China. What does the president think the CCP might be up to here?
I haven't spoken to him about this specific investigation from the FBI, but I'm happy to, and I'm sure he's very glad that this is something the FBI discovered, and we'll make sure anyone who is involved in illegal activity will be held accountable.
And just one more about this weekend. At the Mar-a-Lago Super Bowl party, after the first two quarters, are the TVs going to be on the halftime show with Bad Bunny or the halftime show with Kid Rock?
I think the president would much prefer a Kid Rock performance over Bad Bunny, I must say that. Jennifer.
On the nuclear arms pact, we saw the president's post on that.
Yes.
But can you say, is there a temporary agreement with Russia to stand by the terms of the New START treaty while negotiations are happening?
Not to my knowledge. Again, to your point, Jennifer, I just do want to reiterate exactly what the president said. He wrote just moments ago, the United States is the most powerful country in the world. I completely rebuilt its military in my first term, including new and many refurbished nuclear weapons. I also added Space Force and now continue to rebuild our military at levels never seen before. We are even adding battleships, which are 100 times more powerful than the ones that roamed the seas during World War II. The Iowa, Missouri, Alabama, and others. I have stopped nuclear wars from breaking out across the world between Pakistan and India, Iran and Israel, and Russia and Ukraine, rather than extend New START, a badly negotiated deal by the United States, which I will add was renegotiated under former President Barack Obama, aside from everything else, is being grossly violated. The president wants to have our nuclear experts work on a new, improved, and modernized treaty that can last long into the future, and that's what the United States will continue to discuss with the Russians. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
Did President Trump himself ever ask DNI Gabbard to head down to Fulton County, Georgia?
The president was asked and answered the question just yesterday. I've seen a lot of the media in this room get very caught up with the semantics of why Tulsi Gabbard is there. I will tell you why, and the president agrees with this, because election security is essential to national security. And as the director of national intelligence, it is a part of Ms. Gabbard's role to make sure that American elections are free of foreign interference and that American elections are safe and secure. And so the ODNI director is working with the FBI on this effort, and the president wholeheartedly supports both Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard in ensuring that American elections are safe, are secure, and are free of foreign intervention.
Is there any
Michael,
indication that
Thank
there's
you,
foreign
Caroline.
influence?
Federal law enforcement's involvement in the search for
Well,
Nancy Guthrie.
excuse me one second. It's the media who has said that there's Russian interference in American elections. You guys have been saying that for many, many years. So the people
in Fulton
well,
County.
the people in this room, considering that you all said for many years that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help Donald Trump, you should all be very happy that we finally have an administration that is looking into that, and we'll be happy to keep you posted. Michael.
Thanks, Caroline. With the FBI's involvement in the search for Nancy Guthrie now, has this search expanded nationwide outside of Arizona? And given Pima County's proximity to Mexico, is this now an international search?
Well, Michael, that would be a question for state and local authorities as they continue to oversee the investigation at this time. Again, the federal government and the FBI have offered any and all resources, but the state and local authorities are still leading the investigation, so I would direct you to them. I'm certainly not in a position to talk about it.
One other question, Caroline.
Sure.
Friday's talks with Iran, they were originally supposed to take place in Turkey. They've now been moved to Oman. Can you tell us the reason for that move?
Look, the president, diplomacy is always his first option when it comes to dealing with countries all around the world, whether it's our allies or our adversaries. And so Special Envoy Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be traveling to Oman for those talks tomorrow, and we will see what comes of those. The president is standing by for an update from them. Sure, in the pink.
Thank you, Caroline. Cuban leader Miguel Diaz-Canel said today that Cuba would be willing to engage in dialogue with the United States only without pressure, without preconditions, on equal footing and with respect for sovereignty. But his government is denying what President Trump said, that they're all already holding talks. How would you respond to that?
I think the fact that the Cuban government is on its last leg and its country is about to collapse, they should be wise in their statements directed towards the President of the United States. But as I just reiterated, the President is always willing to engage in diplomacy, and I believe that's something that is taking place, in fact, with the Cuban government.
Yeah, thank you, Caroline. So the Office of Personnel Management released a final rule today that makes it easier to fire government employees who are not doing their job, basically. Does the President believe that there are people in his government still that are not following his agenda?
That's a good question. I have not asked him about that. I mean, look, it's a very big government, right? There are thousands of people who work for the federal government here in Washington, D.C. This administration has been very much focused on ensuring that we have an efficient and productive workforce for the American taxpayer. There's not a day that goes by where we don't show up and realize we are public servants working on behalf of the American people, and everybody in the federal government best have that mindset, or they won't be welcome to work for this administration. So I think it's a good thing that the Office of Personnel Management put this rule out. I think if people aren't doing their jobs, if they aren't showing up for work, if they're not working hard on behalf of this president, they're not welcome to work for him at all.
The New York City mayor is dealing with a $12 billion budget deficit. If he texted President Trump, would the president bail him out?
I'll leave that answer to the president himself, Ed. Kristen, go ahead.
One more follow-up on Dina Gabbard. You have said that the president supports the fact that she was there, but last night when he was asked about it, he said he didn't know why she was there. He didn't say that he directed her. Can you clarify on that? Did she go by herself and he learned later and supports it?
Well, did you look at the full entirety of his response? I was in the room for that NBC interview, Kristen, and he just said exactly what I told you, which is that election security is essential to national security. We need to ensure that our elections are free and are fair and are free of foreign interference. And he spoke about how Ms. Tulsi Gabbard is involved in that effort. So you're taking like the first three words that he said to one question and not looking at his entire response.
Follow up on what you said about foreign interference. You talked about 2016 and Russian interference, but what we've learned from these Georgia officials is what was seized by the FBI were ballots from 2020 in this Fulton County election center. Do you have any evidence that there was international interference in the 2020 election in this election center?
What I do have evidence of, and what the media seems to be undermining, is why Tulsi Gabbard is there in the first place. And I would point you again to federal law that clearly assigns the DNI and the office with the statutory responsibility to lead counter intel matters related to election security. This includes assessing risks to election voting systems, software, voter registration databases, and more, and analyzing foreign interference. And the ODNI is responsible for supporting the White House interagency action to secure our elections through intel analysis and vulnerability assessments. And they should be routinely collaborating with agencies like the DHS, the DOJ, and the FBI. So as for that question, it would be better suited to ask the Director of National Intelligence herself in her office. But what I'm telling you is that it is more than appropriate. In fact, it is Tulsi Gabbard's job to ensure that our elections are safe and secure. And that's exactly what she's been doing on the ground in Georgia. And I don't understand why anyone in this room, considering you're all American citizens, I believe, and like to vote in our nation's elections, should have any problem with that whatsoever. Now,
Thank you, Caroline. The president said that the administration should take a softer approach on immigration enforcement. He's also suggested for months that some migrant workers should be spared from these raids based on what they're doing. Is the administration going to continue to conduct large worksite raids as it seeks to target violent criminals? And can you clarify, is the federal government going to continue doing these deportation operations in blue cities where authorities say they don't want them?
Well, first, again, to the president's answer yesterday, the full context of his answer was that he'd like to see a softer touch, but we are always going to remain tough. That softer touch the president is referring to is that cooperation that is necessary between state and local authorities and federal government authorities to ensure that we can continue deporting illegal aliens from our communities without tons of agents having to go after one illegal alien. If the states and the local governments just turn over their illegal aliens to ICE at jails, as they should be doing, it requires one agent to deport that one illegal alien who can then go on their way to their home country in a peaceful manner. The escalation that we've seen take place in Minnesota is a direct result of the refusal of state and local officials to cooperate with the federal government and with ICE, which has led to these hostile and dangerous environments. And so we don't want that. Again, the president wants direct cooperation, and that's what he was referring to. As for worksite raids, I don't broadcast any future action that may or may not happen from the Department of Homeland Security. But again, the president's focus and the administration's focus is on targeting illegal alien criminals, especially those who have committed heinous crimes in our country, as evidenced by the few illegal aliens that I just shared with you here today.
Will ICE and Border Patrol avoid going to other blue cities where the local officials are saying, we won't work with you, we don't want you here?
Well, first of all, those local officials should be wanting to work with ICE. Why would any official, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, want murderers and predators in your city? It makes zero sense. It's an untenable position. The only reason Democrats are taking that position now is because their entire party platform is just anti-Trump. It makes no sense for the American people. They should be calling this White House, they should be calling Secretary Noem, they should be calling Tom Homan, and they should be saying, we want to work with you to remove the worst of the worst criminals from our city. Please come here. So yes, ICE is going to continue to do their job in cities and communities across the country, but it certainly makes it much easier when we have that level of cooperation and corroboration at the state and local level. In places like Florida, where there has been the arrest of thousands, tens of thousands of illegal alien criminals. None of you talk about that, or none of you hear about that, because these operations are going seamlessly and peacefully. Why? Because there is an intimate cooperation between the state government and the federal government, and that's what the president wants to see in all 50 states. In the whites, yes.
Hi, thank you, Karoline. Over the weekend, President Trump said that he was giving a serious look at endorsing in the Texas Republican Senate primary. We know that Minnesota and Georgia also have competitive, crowded primaries. Is he giving those races a serious look as well?
Well, I'm not allowed to speak from the podium on any future political endorsements the president may or may not make, but I know that he is watching all of these races across the country quite carefully. I won't get ahead of him on any potential endorsements. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Two questions for you about the continuing resolution that the president signed for the Department of Homeland Security. What would be the repercussions for all of the agencies under DHS if no agreement is reached on funding when that deadline approaches next Friday?
Well, there will be grave repercussions for all of those agencies, but more importantly, frankly, for the American people who those agencies serve. And that's exactly what the president and the White House want to avoid. Again, we want to keep the government funded. We want the Department of Homeland Security, of course, to be up and operationalized and continuing as necessary to protect our homeland, to secure our border, to ensure the brave men and women of the United States Coast Guard are getting paid, the brave men and women of the United States Secret Service who protect the president, the vice president, and frankly, all of you in this building every day continue to receive the paychecks that they so well deserve. And so that's why the White House will engage in these talks with Democrats. But again, the president is never going to cave on this administration's core promise to deport illegal aliens from our country.
You said, Caroline, in your statement that there are certain proposals that Democrats are putting up that are non-starters. What are some of those non-starters?
There are a few, and it's a very good question, but I won't negotiate from the podium. I know the White House will be engaged in direct, serious talks with Democrats on this important matter. Natalie.
Thank you. In addition to launching Trump RX tonight, Trump has said that he wants to meet with insurance companies to lower healthcare costs. Do you have any update on when those meetings?
Yes, he does want to meet with insurance companies. That meeting will take place. I don't have an update on when it will be on the schedule, but the purpose of that meeting will be to continue to negotiate with these companies to ensure that more money is going back to the American consumer. And you're all going to see that on full display tonight at 7 o'clock with the formal launch of Trump RX. I'm telling you, this is going to be a very cool and unique event, so everybody really should tune in.
Can you clarify what the president said on the Diego Garcia deal? He said he didn't like it, now again he says he's for it.
He spoke with Prime Minister Starmer directly. He understands Prime Minister Starmer's position, and he supports it. But as the president reiterated in that statement, of course, the United States reserves the right to protect our assets. We still have a military base, of course, on the island of Diego Garcia. And so the president reiterated to the Prime Minister and to all of you that the United States will never waver, if necessary, in protecting our assets anywhere in the world, but including on Diego Garcia. And he supports the Prime Minister's decision. Elizabeth.
Just on that one, Karoline, can I ask you?
Said that he's now seeking.
John, I'll go to you after.
The president said he's now seeking $1 billion from Harvard, considerably more than before. What changed here, and how are negotiations going?
Well, look, this has been an ongoing negotiation and, frankly, a frustrating negotiation for the president and the administration because we want a deal. And it's very unfortunate that Harvard has dragged its feet in understanding they need to rectify the wrongs and the illegal behavior that took place on their campus over the course of the past several years under the previous administration. And so the president wants a justified deal to correct for that criminal behavior that took place on their campus. He is now demanding $1 billion from Harvard University, and Secretary McMahon will be continuing to lead this negotiation and these talks. John.
Caroline, thank you. You mentioned some polling earlier that was very compelling on deportations. Rasmussen came out with a poll today, said 75% of Republicans want all illegals deported. It seems like the conversation has shifted again to focusing only on deporting illegal aliens who are criminals. Is the president still committed to deportations of the 20 million illegals that came here under Joe Biden, or are you starting to see that back?
Yes, and the president has always been committed to that, John. But we must prioritize, and the prioritization is on those tens of thousands of convicted criminals whom we know are still roaming our streets. ICE and Border Patrol and DHS have done a phenomenal job of removing tens of thousands of them. Actually, nearly 1 million people have been deported from our country over the past year, 2 million additional self-deportations. So nearly 3 million people have left the United States. But again, as you pointed out rightfully, Joe Biden and the Democrats allowed approximately 20 million people into our country illegally. So yes, of course, the president is committed to ensuring that America is and always will be a nation of laws.
Thank you, Caroline. Steve Bannon recently said, quote, "We're going to have ICE surround the polls come November." Is that something that the president is considering?
That's not something I've ever heard the president consider, no.
Can you guarantee to the American public that ICE will not be around polling locations or voting locations in November?
I can't guarantee that an ICE agent won't be around a polling location in November. I mean, that's frankly a very silly hypothetical question. But what I can tell you is I haven't heard the president discuss any formal plans to put ICE outside of polling locations. It's a disingenuous question.
Karoline, I had two questions regarding the DHS. The first one is, one of the Democrats' main demands for DHS funding was to demask ICE agents. Is this something that the president is even considering?
Again, this is one of the specific points in the letter that went out by Senate Majority Leader Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. I won't negotiate the individual points from the podium, but it is obviously something the White House will be discussing with lawmakers on Capitol Hill in the coming days.
Is the administration concerned that the shakeup that we're seeing of DHS activity in Minneapolis could potentially embolden different obstructionist protesters around the country as they now have a playbook on how to get ICE out of their cities?
No, because what you saw yesterday with the drawdown of 700 agents only occurred because the condition that the President of the United States set for local states, local counties to turn over illegal aliens to ICE has been met. The vast majority of counties, nearly every single county now in Minnesota, has made an agreement to notify ICE when they are releasing an illegal criminal from their jail. This is a huge win for the administration. Again, it's a condition the president set out and has been met thanks to the tireless efforts of Mr. Homan. And as for the left-wing agitators who have been illegally obstructing undermining ICE's immigration efforts. We are not letting that behavior go unnoticed or unpunished. In fact, just today, the Department of Homeland Security arrested this individual. He is a self-proclaimed Antifa member who has been threatening, doxing, harassing ICE. He called for the murder of federal law enforcement officers. He encouraged bloodshed in the streets of Minnesota. He proudly acclaimed affiliation with the domestic terrorist organization Antifa. And the Department of Justice, thanks to the great work of HSI and the FBI, was able to locate and arrest this individual today. So we are committed to enforcing our immigration laws. We want that level of cooperation from state and local officials. And if people are illegally obstructing our federal law enforcement operations, if they are targeting, doxing, harassing, and vilifying ICE agents, they are going to be held accountable, like this individual here, who again is a self-proclaimed member of Antifa. He is a domestic terrorist, and he will be held accountable in the United States.
Caroline, just to follow up on Garrett's earlier question, I mean, you talked a lot about the SAVE Act. I know you spoke with the president about it before you came out here. The president has gone beyond that, though. He's talking about Republicans taking over elections, states are agents of the federal government. So just to be clear, is the president only calling on Congress to pass the SAVE Act, or does he want Republicans to go further than that before the midterm elections?
The president is calling on Republicans, again, and Democrats to pass the SAVE Act. I will reiterate, requirement for voter ID to vote. That should be something that no American should oppose. In fact, we know that the vast majority of Americans support it. Requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote, which is not hard to do. We should be able to do that in this country. If you want to register to vote in the United States of America, you have to be a citizen in the United States of America. And this piece of federal legislation will direct states to remove non-citizens from the voter rolls. I just had a conversation with the president about it.
Thank you, Caroline. I have two questions. Tariffs on South Korea. As you know, President Trump recently mentioned increasing tariffs on South Korea. When will the 25% tariffs increasing on South Korea begin? Secondly, what impact will this have on national security?
Sure. I don't have a timeline for you on that, but I will make sure that our trade team here at the White House gets you an answer swiftly and promptly. John.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Yesterday, President Trump, in the NBC interview, said that it bothers me that somebody is going after Bill Clinton. That somebody is the House Oversight Chairman, James Comer, a Republican. Why is the president bothered that they're investigating Bill Clinton and his Epstein ties?
Look, I think that the president has respect for the former president of the United States, Bill Clinton. He said yesterday himself they've shared a good relationship, and that's what he was reiterating in that NBC interview.
Go
ahead.
Caroline. Can you tell us a little bit about the agenda for tomorrow's talks with the Iranians? What will be the focus of the discussions?
Diplomacy moving forward. The president has obviously been quite clear in his demands of the Iranian regime. Zero nuclear capability is something he's been very explicit about, and he wants to see if a deal can be struck. And while these negotiations are taking place, I would remind the Iranian regime that the president has many options at his disposal, aside from diplomacy, as the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military in the history of the world. Washington Examiner, go ahead.
Lynchburg County, Virginia, is their local law enforcement is defying the blue government's demand that they no longer cooperate with ICE. There's a lot of red counties that are thumbing their nose at the blue government, blue states leadership, telling them not to cooperate with ICE. Will this administration support those counties in any way? Support them either through legal help or?
Absolutely. And if there is a county in this country, whether it's red or blue, that seeks to cooperate with the federal government to remove violent, illegal criminal aliens from their communities, this administration is here to help. You've heard the calls from the president himself on asking Democrats and Republicans across the country to call on the Trump administration to work with them, not against them, in the matter of public safety and securing our homeland. Thank you all very much. You'll hear directly from the president tonight at 7 o'clock, and I hope everybody has a good weekend. Happy Super Bowl weekend. The president has wisely chosen not to make a prediction in Sunday night's game, but as a native girl from New Hampshire, go Patriots. Thank you, guys.